The prophecies of Daniel, the detailed prophecies fulfilled in the past, assure us of the fulfillment of prophecies yet to come. The book of Daniel gives a detailed and accurate account of the great empires which would rule over Israel over a period of 1,000 years. It also tells of the last world empire which is yet to come. Who was Daniel? God warned Israel that if they did not obey his commandments, he would judge them. And if they refused to repent, he would ultimately send them into captivity. Like with Pharaoh, who was warned from the start about God's judgment, Israel refused to obey, and their city and temple were destroyed, while the people went into captivity into Babylon. Daniel was a member of the Jewish royal family or nobility and was taken captive to Babylon as a young man, presumably a teenager, when Israel was conquered in about 606 BC. He served under the Babylonian kings for a period of 70 years and then under the Medo-Persian rulers into his late 80s to early 90s. Daniel's character. Daniel was an exceptional and very devoted follower of God throughout his life. On his arrival in Babylon as a youth, he risked his life by declining to eat food which did not conform to the requirements of the Mosaic law. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore, he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. He was delivered from execution some years later by asking God for the interpretation of the king's dream. There is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living. As an old man under the reign of Darius, Medo-Persian Empire, he was delivered from the lion's den because he would not stop praying to God. Everyone knew that we shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God. Daniel's prophetic visions of world empires. Because of his great devotion to God, Daniel was given a number of prophecies through his life which deal with Israel's future. From his time to the present and into a future time still to come, Daniel outlines the history of the times of the Gentiles and describes past and future empires that occupy Palestine and rule over Israel until the Messiah returns. To understand fully the culmination of God's program revealed in Revelation, it is necessary to understand the inception of his program revealed to Daniel. 4 world empires revealed. Daniel chapter 2 gives a prophecy of 4 great empires that will rule over Israel from Daniel's time into the future. This is man's perspective and perception of world empires. These are shown as a vision of a great statue, each part representing a different empire. A head of gold, Babylon, breast and arms of silver, belly and thighs of brass, legs of iron, feet part iron and part clay. Thou, O king, art a king of kings. Thou art this head of gold, and after thee shall arise another kingdom, inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, who shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things. And as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Some 50 years later, Daniel had another vision of these four empires described as beasts, and like man's perspective of his own greatness. This shows us God's perspective of earthly empires as savage beasts. And four great beasts came up from the sea. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads. After this, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. The empires explained. The winged lion represents Babylon. The bear is Medo-Persia. The winged leopard with 4 heads is Greece, showing its division into 4 parts. And the fourth beast with 10 horns is Rome. About 2 years later, towards the end of the Babylonian Empire, Daniel is given one final vision, which further describes these world empires, yet future at the time. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation. Babylon ruled 606 to 536 BC. It was conquered by the Medes and Persians, 2 horns, who ruled 536 to 332 BC. They were followed by the Greek Empire and its 4 divisions, 331 to 146 BC, and the Roman Empire, 146 BC to 400 AD. Up to that point, Daniel's vision covers a period of 1,000 years and includes not only the names of actual empires, but also the fact that the Greek Empire would be divided into 4 parts, which happened at the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC. The last world empire. In these visions, the feet and 10 toes of clay mixed with iron of the great statue correspond to 10 horns of the great beast. This is still future and describes a revived Roman Empire, the legs of iron, but in a weakened, though still brutal form. This will be followed by God's everlasting kingdom. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. The stone or rock cut without hands is a picture of the Messiah, who will ultimately return to conquer all earthly kingdoms and establish the messianic kingdom promised to David and described in the book of Revelation. Prophetic timeline to the Messiah. Daniel chapter 9, verses 24 to 27 provides a specific timeline to the coming of the Messiah and his death. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression, and to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know, therefore, and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem under the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. The word translated as week is actually 7. So 70 times 7 refers to 490 years. This is divided into two parts. 7 plus 62 times 7 equals 483 years, followed by another 7 years. In total, 490 years. It describes a period of time determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city. So it clearly refers specifically to Israel and Jerusalem. This predicts that there will be a command to rebuild Jerusalem, and it clearly states that 483 years from the time of this command, Messiah will be cut off. The starting point of the 483 years is verse 25. From the going forth, Jerusalem. The wedding demands an imperial decree. The object was to restore and to build Jerusalem, purely a material and political object, with no religious feature indicated. 3 particular imperial commandments were issued in relation to Jerusalem. A. The Edict of Cyrus, 536 BC, Ezra chapter 1, verses 1 to 3. This was confined to the building of the house of the Lord and was religious in objective. B. The first decree of Artaxerxes, 458 BC, Ezra chapter 7, verse 8. The purpose of this return to Jerusalem is found in verse 10, which shows that the objective was the perfecting of the religious system, the teaching of the law, the worship and jurisprudence at Jerusalem. C. The second decree of Artaxerxes, 445 BC, Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 4 to 8. This journey was for a political purpose and seems to fill the requirements needed for the starting point of the 70 weeks. The date is identified as being the one in which a commandment to restore and build Jerusalem was issued, and that was given on the 1st of Nisan, March 14, 445 BC. That is the most likely starting point for the 490 years. The last 7 years of the prophecy are shown separately and are yet future. This 7-year period is described in detail in the book of Revelation and deals with a time of great tribulation with which God will judge the world for its sin and the rebellion before the second coming of Christ. We are living in the gap between the 483 years and the 7 years. The Old Testament makes no mention of this gap. So the revelation given was seen by Old Testament prophets and believers at a single period of time. However, the New Testament describes this gap in Romans chapter 11 as a mystery. For I would not, brethren, that he should be ignorant of this mystery, lest he should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part, is happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. Romans chapter 11, verse 25. A detailed description of the last 7 years of Daniel's prophecy is given in the book of Revelation, chapters 4 to 19, which we will study at a later time.